Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the My Tribe podcast, where I get to sit down with individuals that I consider to be insightful, inspirational. I want to find out what motivates them, what is unique about their journey, and what lessons and insights that they've learned along the way that they're worthy to pass on. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And let's get to this episode. Well, Mike Kuczinski, welcome to the My Tribe podcast. Thank you so much for coming on, my man.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Cheers. It's such a pleasure, dude. I know we've kind of gone our different ways, and we went to MSV together, which was a blast. From what was it? What was your room? What was your room number? Club
Oh my God. I think it was 207, right?
Club 207 back in the day,
Hell
dude.
yeah. Hell yeah. I only got written up for like having 85 people in a room that could only fit 10.
What a time. What a time, man. What a time.
Okay. Great times. Hey,
Oh,
listen, that's life for you, right? Yeah. Everyone's got their own journey. Doesn't mean that they're all going to be walking together. So you
that's
could
true.
always come back, but takes you this, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, man. Well, again, thank you for your time. And I know we were talking and touching base about the like I see what you're doing. I love what you're doing. You're doing real estate. What else are you doing right now?
So my main job is financial advisory. So I'm a financial
Okay.
advisor. I do taxes. I do real estate. I'm currently partnering up and opening up a gym franchise in Jersey and one in Florida, actually. I think near you. So there'll be three different locations. It's a HIT training style, so high intensive interval training. It comes with a coach and a meal plan. So it's one of those. It's catering to a higher end, more affluent, person, but it's also people who are committed to working out because you're not. It's someone who doesn't have time to work out, wants to get a workout in 25, 30 minutes. You know how hits are. Um,
Hmm.
and that's what it's catering to. And then outside of that, I'm still writing jokes, trying to do my stand up. Just I've this last year, I just kind of had a complete mental shift, a mindset shift. Trying to be just more positive in everything that I do and everything that I approach. So it's been a grind, it's been a journey, but I like where I'm at. I like myself, and which is the biggest thing you need to do.
Yeah, that's it's so important to be in that place of liking yourself. I mean, tell me a little bit about how like where you came from to where you are today in terms of that, man. That's a tough road.
Yeah, it's funny. So like I said, I was doing the stand-up comedy for a while, and part of my act was like self-deprecation. So, kind of just shitting on myself at all times, which I don't mind because I'm pretty confident in who I am. More confident in who I am now, but at the time, I never really realized how much what you say affects you,
Mhm.
not just not just verbally or consciously, but unconsciously, how much things actually change by just what you say to yourself on a given basis. So if I'm spending my time making jokes about myself or writing jokes about myself, in a negative connotation. So not, anything. It's funny, and I find it hysterical, and I don't mind making fun of myself because I don't think you should be taking yourself too seriously either.
Mhm.
But writing it every day, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. Well, eventually, I'm gonna be that if I keep writing it out and I keep reading it. They say writing down is the easiest way to remember something, and that's because it's writing, reading, and speaking all in one.
Mhm.
So if you're triple reinforcing that into your own subconscious mind, your unconscious mind, it's going to eventually be true. And I learned that by doing that. And, I was reading some self help books, I was reading some things, and a lot of them really emphasize the fact that you need to mentally just be positive about things and the mind is the ultimate tool to overcome any of your challenges and move yourself forward. So I started reading it, and like anything else, when you read, it's like you kind of take it with a grain of salt, right? You're like, okay, yeah, it works for thee, not for me, or something like that. But I started actually about a year and a half ago. I actually started implementing all the stuff that I've been learning, and just there's always a positive in everything. No matter how shitty the situation is or how bad the situation is, there's a positive to be found. And if you focus your energy on the positives, the negatives don't seem as bad. And that's what I've learned over the course of the year and a half. It's just like, not only that, but have intent with everything that you do, because there's no reason. I've learned that there's no real reason to do anything if you're just going to half-ass it. Go in there fully focused on what you're looking to do, and at a minimum, you can't end it with saying, I didn't put in my effort. You don't know what the outcome's going to be if you don't fully commit to the course. I was actually having a conversation with somebody today, ironically enough. We were talking about how everything's really superficial nowadays. Everything's surface level, whether it be a relationship or whatever it is. And I had said to her, I said, it's like trying to figure out what the depth of the ocean is by standing in the sand. I said, you're really never going to know until you jump in the water. Yeah. And that's what I mean when I say intent. Jump into you're not going to put your foot in the water and figure out how deep that water is going to be until you start going out there, until you fully submerge yourself. So if you go in there without having the intent, you're already setting yourself up to fail. So that's what I've learned from where I came from, because a lot of things I would phone in a good amount of things, because it's enough to get by is some of the things that I would approach it, right? I didn't need to kill myself. I look back at college. I graduated with a GPA above 3, and I don't think I opened up a book more than like 10 times. And it's a testament to my ability to learn, yes, but if I had actually cared, I could have done better. And I look back, obviously hindsight's 2020, and I look back at all the other different times in my life where if I had just given 100%, things would have, there would have been a different outcome than what I actually had. And I don't regret what I had done, because I don't remember the exact quote, but if you try to go back and change everything that you regret, you will no longer be the person you are. And I agree with that, because it might have taken me 30 years to get here to the person I am, and to truly start loving who I am. But I couldn't have gotten here without having all that other stuff behind me, because it's something that I could actually look back at and say, either A, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. If I can't look back at my mistakes and say, I'm never doing that again, because I already know what the outcome is. Yes. Right?
Yes.
Or the other alternative is I could sit back and just be upset about it. And that's not going to change what has already happened. And it's only going to affect what I do going forward. And it's not going to affect it in a good way, because I'm going to concentrate too much of my effort on the negative of what happened versus what's, the positive potential ahead of me. And that's what I've learned over the course of, like I said, about a year and a half. Just I don't know what it was, just woke up one day with a complete mental switch. And I don't know if you saw my video the other day, but about the mastering the art of showing up and falling in love with getting 1% better every day. The showing up for yourself, and it goes hand in hand, in my opinion, because you can't get 1% better if you're not showing up for yourself, right? That's first and foremost. But those 1% better every day sucks. for a good amount of time because you don't see the progress, right? And the hardest thing to continue doing is something that you don't see progress in. That's why weight loss is so difficult,
Mm,
because people want to see the 10 pounds to 20 pounds drop in a
right
month.
away.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but it's going to take you 2 or 3 to even lose what you're looking to lose. So it's getting through that mental hurdle of the instant gratification. So what I'm getting at is with the 1% is I basically said that flipped switch didn't happen overnight. It was a couple of years in the making of just, instead of sulking on the negatives, or even to the point of like, I used to, oh, this person looks like this or this person looks like that. I've moved away from the judgment. I mean, I still, like anybody else, I'll make a comment or I'll judge. I'm not,
You're-
yeah, I'm not holier than thou. Everyone makes mistakes, but I've tried to move away from that because ultimately it's a waste of energy. What does that do for anybody? It doesn't help anything. But two, you can't focus on yourself if you're too busy focusing on whatever everyone else is doing, or what everybody else looks like, or whatever it is. Like, you know, um, make sure your own house is in order before you comment on somebody else's.
yeah.
So
There's a
that's
quote.
kind of,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's that 1% approach has kind of led me to where I'm at now, where I had that mental switch. And that mental switch wasn't a literal night and day difference. It was a culmination of small mini progresses that led to an eventual turn, you know.
Those 1%, they added up,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
compounded.
if you look at the let's assume it was simple and it was just 1% a day. That's 365%. Like you said, compounding, we're talking about over 365%. So
Right.
you've basically gotten 4 times better in the course of a year just by being better 1% every day.
Mm. What is one of those, I guess, when I think 1% better every day, I think habits. I think, what is it that I have that is a habit in my life that I'm doing every single day that's holding me back? That's kind of where my mind goes with 1%. What does getting 1% better look like to you?
It doesn't necessarily have to be a bad habit that you're trying to correct, right? It could be in trying to instill a good habit. Absolutely, because you see how immediately the connotation kind of goes into a negative fashion, and it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay,
of
which
course.
is fair. Don't get me wrong. Listen, I this past year, I've tried on numerous occasions to quit the jewel. Right,
Mm,
this past year on January 1, I made a conscious decision saying, I am done with this. I'm no longer doing. I haven't touched it. I haven't had nicotine since January 1st of this year.
dude, congratulations, bro. That's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, I appreciate it. But the key that I noticed isn't, if you start looking too far and saying, I'm going to do this for a year, you're probably not going to do it.
Mm, yeah.
But if I've come to terms where I have to quit every day. Every single day I am quitting, re-quitting every day, because that's my 1% better, right? How did I get better? I didn't fall into the same trap that I would have done had I said, I want to wait a year, or I'm gonna go a full year, and then next thing you know, I'm by somebody who has it, and I'm like, what's one? You know what I mean? I didn't get better.
We're
I
4 months
went
in. I'm
backward.
almost close to 6. So screw it.
Yeah, I'm
Make an
almost close to
excuse.
6.
Yeah.
Or if I'm only committing to the year, well, guess what happens after the year? Oh,
We're going.
I did my year, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
So to get rid of a negative habit, yes, 1% better is just every day that's closer to everything that gets you closer to your goal, even if it's like working out, right? I was reading this thing about no 0 days, and what that means is, let's just say your goal is to get fit, right, over the course of the year, and most people will have a day where they don't want to work out like anybody else, and they won't do anything at all.
Hmm.
I was reading that they said instead of having a 0 day, you have non-zero days, and what that means is even if you just do one squat that day,
Mm.
It's still got you closer to your goal than doing nothing.
That's
So as minimalistic as it sounds and as minuscule of an impact as it may seem, which in the grand scheme of things, that one squat might seem insignificant, but it could be the difference between you continuing on the course and you actually now having a full reversal.
mm.
Because one day off can lead to 2 days off, which leads to 3 days off, which leads to a week, which is now a month, and now you are back in that same cycle of not doing what you were looking to do.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, so to me, though, getting 1% better every day is just is attacking that day with the intent of what you wanted to accomplish to begin with. You want to look back at those days and say, this might have been a roadblock, but it wasn't, or a detour on my road, but it wasn't a complete, you know, fracture of my road. The bridge didn't collapse. I could still get across to the other side.
Mm.
That's the way I focus my 1%. Like, because it's everyone's 1%. Like, it's going to look different every day. Every day, your 1% is different. You know, it's not going to be. We were just talking about how our journeys had separated after college, and now here we are having a conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
That everyone has their own path that you're going to have to follow, and it's never a smooth path. And if it's a smooth path, you're probably on the wrong path. You know, and the reason I say that is because life is not easy and you're going to be faced with challenges on a regular basis. So if things are smooth, it means you're sitting in a comfort zone that you are completely content with, and that's fine if that's for you. But you know, the road is going to have potholes, it's going to have hills, it's going to have ice, it's going to be raining, it's going to be miserable. You're not going to want to walk. It is what it is, but it's still the path that you have to go through, and you could choose to either not get better you know, every day. And again, it sounds like I'm saying, you know, it's something that I'm not talking down on anyone who doesn't either. Like, it's, I don't want it to come out like that, because I've been I'm comfortable, this is great, I'll stay right here
Mm.
guy. And I'm still working on not being that, because it's very easy to fall back into your bad habits, as you had mentioned. But if you, I guess the best way to put it is, if you can, at the end of the day, sit back and go, I feel, I feel good about, there was some point in my day where I had a decision to make, and I know I made the right decision, versus I fell back into a bad habit that I've been working so hard, or have already thought I've eliminated.
Mm.
Or a habit that I've been working to instill, right? 21 days consecutively is the definition of creating a habit.
Mm.
Um, so if you go one day without it, you have to now start your 21 days again. So if you at every moment you have that fork in the road and you say, I can go one way, which is going to continue my journey, the other way gets me back onto the smooth path, that 1% is going to be that decision that you made right then and there, that said, this is bringing me towards where I want to go, this is bringing me back to where I was trying to leave. And that's kind of the way I approach the 1%. It's not a one size fits all. I wish I had an answer that was like, this is what you need to do. It's not. You'll know it, I guess, is the best way. Like, you'll know at, you know, it could be as simple as,
What was that
like,
decision for
another
you
thing that
today?
today.
Hey,
So
is
I
today a
went,
1% day?
yeah. So today I had went and donated blood. And after they give blood, they never have any healthy snacks out. They have all the sugary and whatever it is. And part of my journey is I am trying to kick my carb and sugar addiction. I'm
Mm.
not saying I can't have them, but I'm at the whims of them. They're not at the whims of me. And in order for me to, and I've noticed through trial and error, in order for me to not succumb to those cravings, I have to almost avoid them completely. So I had the decision today of saying, okay, I could, I have a legitimate excuse to bring my glycemic, you know, level up,
Yeah.
and eat this, you know, whatever, this zero non-nutritional sustenance, right?
That sugar, amazing
Yeah,
tasting.
yeah,
Yeah,
whatever, yeah.
yeah.
The great stuff. I'm not sitting there saying it ain't good, but I said, you know what? No, like I'm in. If I want to do it, I'll make the decision to do it. If I don't want to do it, I'm making the decision not to do it. But I don't want it to be because I'm succumbing to my body's craving of that, of the sugar, of this. It's at the end of the day, it's like a drug, you know. So that's my got better moment today, was just like I was able to consciously make the decision. No, I don't want to do this. I'll eat something else when I get home. I'll put something together, whether it's fruit, it's something better than the alternative of just straight 30 grams of sugar into the veins. So that was my 1% better today. I woke up this morning, which I haven't done in a while, and I looked in the mirror and I just did some affirmations, some little stuff, which I'm not a big, I've never done it before. So this is like a weird little
Really?
change of, yeah, as a change. You know what it is? I have a hard time wrapping my head around them. But like I said, now that I'm starting to really truly digest the you are what you think, I now see the credence behind you looking at yourself and saying, you are this, you are that. Because you do it enough times, it's like the fake it till you make it mentality, right? You're eventually gonna believe what you tell yourself.
Yeah. So I'm gonna
And
challenge you
that's
because you were doing affirmations. You
yeah,
talked about it
yeah,
earlier. You were doing them when you were writing your jokes. That's
correct.
self-defecation. You're bringing yourself down. You were affirming and writing and saying and speaking into existence the negative, affirming that shit about you. And
Yeah,
then I was like, wait, he's doing affirmations and he doesn't even
yeah,
know
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
bullshit. It's insane.
absolutely.
How many people do that? They sing songs that fuck bitches get money, fuck bitches get money. And then it's like, well, why do I only want to do two things? Like I
Yeah,
don't know why I want to just do all this like horrible things that aren't like, it's not the way I was raised, but it's what I'm letting input into my body, into my mind, to my soul, and that's what's coming out on the other side, and you're upset with the results of it essentially.
absolutely. Yeah. And you're right. Like I said, the affirmations were there. I just didn't know what they were. And there's obviously a positive and a negative to everything, and that's just as easy as you saying positive affirmations can get you from point A to point B. It's just as easy to go the opposite, if not easier, to go the opposite direction, focusing on the negative affirmations. So you're right. I've never actually looked in the mirror and said it to myself. So this was definitely a change of pace. Like writing it down is one thing, and I'm not consciously, I didn't consciously think about it at the time. Now like I said, I'm trying to be more conscious and like I said, have intent in what I'm doing. So when you have intent behind it, you understand what you're doing, right? You have a purpose behind what you're looking to do. So doing that today was kind of another, let's just keep doing it. You're never going to see the results the first day. You're never going to see the results the first week, but you will start seeing the results at some point. And then the only way you're going to see those results is if you continue to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just one of those things where I keep saying intent, and it's just one of those things I've been focusing on very much this year. It's just like committing to yourself, committing to what you say. Last year, one of my New Year's resolutions was committing to my yeses. I think that's when it kind of started. Now that I'm doing a little, yeah, now
Yes,
I'm
we're
digging
digging,
back.
baby.
Yeah,
We're digging.
yeah. So last year, so going into 2023, my New Year's resolution was to commit to my yeses. And basically, what that meant is if someone said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" and I said yes, didn't matter how I felt that day, unless obviously I was sick and it's just a detriment to everybody's health if I go, which depending can be, but so if I said yes, I went begrudgingly, excitedly. It didn't matter. I was going. I went. I showed up, and again, that was part of the art of showing up. I said yes. I went, and I did. I had a lot of cool experiences that I don't think I normally would have had I not been committed to that say yes. So like First and foremost, the first thing I could think of was I did a polar plunge in February into the ocean, and I'd never done it before, but I was asked to do it by my mom. Actually, she said, "Hey, we're doing this. Do you want to do it?" And I said yes.
Oh,
And the day of, we were blessed with good weather, but like it's still February, and you're like, I'm not. We're going to jump into 30-degree water. This is kind of not how I thought my Saturday morning was going to go. But I did it, and it was extremely like a real rejuvenating feeling. And I said, I started liking myself more because I'm committed to things. And that was kind of that switch. Like I said, I didn't know when it was or what it was. And maybe that was just this first step on the 1,000-mile journey. But committing to my yeses was, I think now, when looking back at it and kind of reflecting on the last 2 years, I think that was kind of one of the turning stones, was just intent in everything that you do. If you're going to say yes, commit to your yeses, because otherwise, why say yes? And it's not only that, but you don't come off as, if you get asked to do something repeatedly and you say yes and you never do it, is that person going to keep asking you to do stuff?
no, not at all.
No, not at all. Because all you've proven to them is that you can't do something. And
Bullshit artist.
yeah, I mean, that's a nice way to put it. I was going to say asshole.
Yeah, you're a bullshitting asshole. That's what it is. You're right.
But it's like I said, I've kind of, and it's one of those things too, where it's like you could say yes, and as long as you get there, it's kind of the thing too. Like my friends joke around, they go, because I'm very stubborn with my answer. If I say no, you're not going to convince me to do something. If I say yes, like I said, I committed to it. So you're at this point not going to convince me I'm not going to do it. But he says to me, he's like, you might not come at the time you're saying you're going to come, but you will be there. And I said, yes, every time. He's like, if I say I'm going to be there for 7, he goes, well, I know that means, I'll see you at 8:30, but because, stuff happens, whatever you got to do. But again, I said, I'll be there. So I'm going to be there.
Got to work out. We get it.
Yeah. Whatever it is, something's going on in the house. You got to get it handled before you leave. It's part of life, like I said, it's never a smooth sail. It's always some kind of weather on the ocean. So, yeah, I think this is really cool. It's really nice. We're going back and reflecting on it. I was trying, because the last couple of weeks, I was really trying to pinpoint, like, when was that, that aha moment, or when was the turning point. I think now that I look back at it, it was those. We go back to those 1% better, right? That's kind of a way to have gotten 1% better, because prior to that, I would say yes, and then might not feel it that day, and I say, oh, I'm not going to do it, and they'll understand, or whatever it may be, whatever excuse you have to give yourself, you'll do it.
Yeah, you can find an excuse to not.
Yeah, you can find an excuse to not do something. Yeah, a lot faster. Yeah. And it harps on the fact that motivation's one thing. To be able to do something when you're motivated is easy. It's to do things when you have no motivation to do it, or you actually have the opposite of motivation, where you're motivated to not do it. Right? You're like, I don't want to do this, and then you fall back on your discipline of what you're doing, and then you ride that until your next dopamine hit of motivation, because you're not always going to be motivated to do things. But if you commit to your word and you commit to yourself, you don't need motivation. You just know you can count on yourself.
So I got a sense of that when you were talking about the polar plunge and things of that nature. And I don't mean to put, words or intentions behind your journey, but it almost seemed like after you said the yes and you did it, it seemed like you were proud of yourself. And then it seemed like it built upon that. And I know that I look back in some of the polar plunges and the shit that I've committed to, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe that guy did that. And I'm like, oh shit, that is this same person. And then when something
Mm.
else is coming in front, like, oh, I did that. Yeah, let's do it. I don't give, let's do it. It's a lot easier for me to say yes because I can believe and I have those wins that I've stacked up to look down upon. You don't have imposter syndrome if you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about. Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Is that
No, absolutely. You're right. No, you're
kind of
absolutely right. As I alluded to before, if you build the habit of being able to count on yourself, then you'll be able to do whatever you want, right? Because like you said, you've done so many other things. Oh, I know I can do this because I've faced a challenge before. And instead of backing away from the challenge, I relied on myself to get through that challenge. And I know that at this point, the only thing that I actually want more is a harder challenge,
mm,
because now I'm at the point where I know what I can do. I want to find out what I can do. We were discussing when I was on the fast, right? The 5 day
yeah,
fast.
yeah, yeah. 5 days.
I
That's
I
crazy.
know I've done two. I know I've done four. I don't know if I was able to do five, and the only way I was able to find that out is to do it. Right. So like I know what I've done before, and that's all well and good, but that doesn't challenge me further because
Mm,
it's easy to do what I've already done. Question is, am I mentally preparing? Am I mentally prepared, or am I mentally strong enough to push myself past what I already know I can do? Obviously there's limits. You don't want to hurt yourself, but like
mm,
if you're going to challenge yourself, don't set the bar at what you've already done, because then you're just going to, again, that fall back into that comfort zone, right? If I know I could run a mile, is that going to get me closer to running 3 if I only run a mile every time? No. It's only going to get me closer if I say, you know what, now I'm going to run 1.1. Now I'm going to run 1.2, 1.3, 2 miles, 2.5, 3. 3 was easy. Let's get to 5. Five's crazy. Let's do 10. Now I'm running a marathon. You know what I mean? It's you know exactly what you can do. There's no reason to just settle at what you already know you can do. We were talking about challenging yourself. Like, it's one of those things that I very much like doing. I want to see what I can and can't do. I want to know what my body can and can't do. It's part of the reason I love working out so much and changing up my workouts, is because I want to see where obviously not to the point of killing myself, but like to the point of where can I go, and it almost become a second nature thing for me if I ever needed it to be. Where can I let my body get to, or where can um, I guess it's like kind of why the SEALs are so crazy, right? Because the SEALs, they're met with so much adversity so quick in their training that they're pushing. It's not even so much can you pass the test. It's for can you forget your own limitations for a minute and realize that those aren't your actual limitations.
mm,
Your limitations are what you're putting in front of you. So if you can eliminate the fact and say, I know I could only hold my breath for 3 minutes, or 3 minutes, that's way too long. But
not though, but it's
but
not.
not, yeah, but it's not, but it's not. No, but it's not. You're right. There are people who free dive for more than that. But assuming that's the case, well, what do you think we were talking about quitting something. If you're only going to say I'm only going to do it for a year, well, odds are you're only going to do it for a year, and if you make it the year. So if you sit there and say, well, I know my limits here, well, you're mentally going to stop there when you get there.
Mm,
If you sit there and say, I know my limits here, but what's above this? Where
mm.
can I go after this? I have a video coming out actually Monday. No spoilers, but
It was all going up.
yeah.
We can post it
But
on Tuesday.
yeah, yeah. But basically, it's just I reference like the unknown and how that's one of humans' biggest fears, the unknown.
Mm,
We always tie a negative connotation to the unknown, when in reality the unknown could be the best thing you ever do. And I think that's pretty close to like your limitations, right? I don't know. I know that this is what my current limitation is, and everything above it is unknown. But the only way to figure out how far this can go up is to try to go above my limit.
I love that visualization.
You know what I mean? And that's just, I just feel like that's not just for working out. It's not just for running. It's like everything that you do, you shouldn't be complacent with what you already know your maximum is, because at some point your maximum can just become your floor that you bounce off of, or you take your first step from. Um, and you won't know that without truly pushing yourself. And that's with everything that you do. And we circle back, I probably said the word intent. If we could do like a count after this on how many
Yeah.
times I said the word intent, yeah. But if you focus on truly having meaning behind what you're doing, and truly believing in your own self and your own everything that you say, is you have to believe in what you say too. It's not just so much saying it. Eventually you say it enough times, you'll start believing it. But you have to sit there and just say, like, I'm willing to push myself past where I know is comfortable and where I know my current limitations are, because the only way to figure out how much further I can get is to go there. And that's, again, it's with everything that you do. It's not just, I mentioned the holding your breath or whatever it is. You might sit there and say, oh, I've read a book a month. Well, why can't you make it to, you
Mm.
know? Or I've read 10 pages. I'm going to stop at the 10 page. That's one of the things that I'm kind of getting off track here, but that's kind of one of those things that aggravates me too, is it's a good thing to do. Right. So, one of the things that I started doing to try to read more was to do the 10 pages a day, because it's very easy to find time for 10 pages. If you're going to the bathroom, you could just pick up the book, read 10 pages, before bed, 10 pages, whatever it is. But I found myself counting the pages,
Mm.
and I get to 10. I'm like, well, that's it. I hit my quota. And what I started to do instead was, I have to read a minimum of 10 pages.
Okay.
So I didn't cap myself. You go in there like, I have to read 10 pages is different than saying I have to read a minimum of 10 pages,
Yeah. Well,
because you get
you
to
made your ceiling your floor.
correct.
You flipped
Correct.
it.
So then you sit there and you go, okay, well, I already got to, now I'm enjoying what I'm reading first and foremost, because I don't have a hard stop on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll end up doing more than what you set out to do, because you didn't put, just changing the words that you're saying is going to change, where your limitations are on things.
Why does this thing not want to work? I guess that's better than nothing. But no, the ceiling, man, that shit is like, to me, with that ceiling, what it's been recently, it's been about, and I don't want to make this about me, but it's been about my tribe. It's been about the 5 people that I hang out with. I know if I'm hanging around people that are reading 10 pages, that are waking up and meditating every day, that are going to the gym. It's not like, are you going to the gym today? It's, when are you going to the gym today? It's the expectation that these, making the ceiling, everybody else who doesn't work out, that's not their lifestyle, making their ceiling your floor. Like, I'm not going through a day without working out. I'm not going through a day without reading, without all of this. And it's not easy, but it's something that you have to hold yourself accountable. And if I look around and see people around me that are doing it, it's achievable. That person's eating, breathing, living, and still making money and doing what they got to do, loving their family and getting these amazing things done. Oh, it's doable. Why can't I do it? Do you see that as well?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, there's truth to be said about the people you surround yourself with. Um, yeah. I've learned over the last couple of years as well that there are just people who are energy positive or energy suckers. Um, and you unfortunately might not figure that out for a while. And it's very difficult to remove friends from your life who have been in your life, or people from your life who've been in your life for a while. But you have to identify the people who are just being the anchor to your cruise ship. You know, who's keeping you from enjoying your vacation right now, and that's somebody holding you down the whole time. And the vacation's whatever's at the end of your goal, right? Because that's at the end of the day, a vacation's exciting, euphoric. So your end game should be exciting and euphoric at the end of the day. But enough about me. Give me an example. What have you? What's been something that you've challenged yourself recently that you said, okay, I thought this was my limit, and it's no longer.
Um, so I would say like this year I've tried to do one a month. And I can't think about the first couple months, but I know in March I did a jiu-jitsu tournament, which was like so like when I look back on 23, and I was never one to set goals. I didn't want to set goals. I just kind of like showed up, did what I needed to do, or did kind of enough to get by. Like I would go to the gym, but I always had a gut. So I never really dialed in the nutrition. And then in 23, I realized like, oh shit, I did a lot of things. Let me like list them off, and listing them off and like making like a stupid little Instagram reel about them, put them in perspective for 24 of like, yo, that was a cool list, but let's triple it. Let's 10x that list. Whatever I did, I want to at least do one of those things a month. So at least I have 12 at the end of the year. And I would say like at this point, I did a jiu-jitsu tournament. I just did a triathlon last weekend just for fun.
Oh, no shit. Really? That's
Yeah,
good for
I
you.
had a client. I had a client that was doing it, and she's like, "Can you train me for a triathlon?" I'm like, "Yeah, why not? Let's do it." And I was training her, and then I'm like, "Wait, this girl she's busting ass. Like, wait, I want to see if I can do it. Fuck it." It was a 400-meter swim, a 10-mile bike ride, and a 3-mile run. So like it's not anything that is grueling and crazy. It was just a sprint. It wasn't the whole
Dude,
triathlon.
I was out of breath just hearing that. So
But a guy like you could do it. Like that's kind of where the beauty of where I wanted to see if I had to get ready or if I was ready. If I had to get ready, I would suffer through the whole day. And now I really got to look back and assess and figure out, all right, what am I not doing? And what do I need to dial in if I need to get ready for something of that nature versus I'm going to go out there, I'm going to enjoy it because I stay ready and I'm in good shape essentially, and I have no excuse not to be that way. And I would say that would be the intention behind the last crazy thing that I just did. And I'm trying to figure out what April's going to bring because it's there we go, let's go. Let there be light. Still
there
figuring
you
out
go.
what April's going to be, but we're I don't know what's next on your list, man. Let's set a crazy goal here. Let's do it.
Oh, shoot. What's next on my I think what's next on my list is probably getting in four at a minimum. I want to do four sets of stand-up comedy at four different locations, like at a minimum. So that'll be my next, yeah, that'll be my next venture. I have a little bit more time now. Now that tax season's over, obviously, so I have a little bit more time to kind of do things. I'm also a big proponent of finding time. You could always find time, but sometimes you just don't have time to do everything, right? But that's probably my goal, and I think the challenging part is going to be. Actually, I don't find speaking in public all that challenging,
Mhm.
but I say that now. I haven't stood on a stage in a year, so things could change rapidly,
Mm.
especially if it doesn't come out right. It's not. It's all going to be great, but um,
There it is.
yeah,
I said, baby, let's go.
absolutely. But that being said, that's my main goal right now. Aside from moving into my apartment at the end of the month, so I think that'll be it. And then, as far as a physical goal, that I have to think about. Let me see. I haven't been doing a lot of running, so I've been doing biking and stuff to try to save on the knees. So maybe I'll try to not try. I will run. I will run at least a mile every other day for a month.
Beautiful, man. I love that.
Yeah.
I
So I
mean,
haven't done a lot of running. It doesn't sound crazy, but for me, it's going to be an absolute game changer. So
and I'm sure it is in the most beautiful way, but I just want to go back to that, just rewind that right there. I'm going to try. No, I will. That's the shift in the vocab. That's the shift mentally that's been so huge for me is that, it's assuming A, that it's already done. B, you're going to try to do something. That's true. You're going to try and you're not going to do it. You're not going to give that 100%. I will do it. There's no negotiation behind I will
yeah,
run a
absolutely.
mile every other day. There's no negotiation with that. And I mean, that's amazing, man. That mindset shift. What do you like? I know you're doing the 1% a day. I mean, what would you say to your previous self? You a Mike Kuczinski 2 years ago. What would you say to him if you could give him some advice 2, 3, 4 years ago? What would you say?
Um, Two things. I would say, don't worry, you're in good hands. That's first and foremost.
Mm,
But second, I would say there's never there's never a bad time to start,
mm,
because at the end of the day, time is going to go by whether you do it or you don't. But you can utilize that time to your advantage, or you could waste it. I guess that's the best thing I would tell myself, because I think then I kind of needed a kick in the ass, because when you're younger, you just look and you say, I got my whole life ahead of me. But then at some point, you don't have as much time ahead of you. And it's just a fact, after a while, it's like, oh, I have so much time ahead. Well, if you keep that mentality, next thing you know, you're 60 years old and you might have 15, 20 years, 30 years if you are, yeah, in a blink of an eye. And they had that old expression, the youth is wasted on the young. And I always joke to, my dad, I was like, yeah, well, that makes no sense. And then I look back at it now and I go, damn, like you said, if I could look back at my old self, and you know what I would tell my old self, like, don't change anything, because I'm not here without you.
mm.
Um, I'm not where I am now if I didn't have this stupid me. It's just
It's
true.
true. It's
The
true.
stupid,
You're right,
but the
man.
stupid me also did things that I don't know if I would have done without, that mentality then. Like I
Mm.
did things that I was a lot more adventurous when it came to challenging myself, because I didn't have the fear of injury or the fear of this or that, right? Because as you get older, you start kind of some things that might be you do a risk reward analysis almost like immediately, right? Like, is this going to hurt me in the morning, or is this going to be fun? And sometimes you just completely abandon and reckless abandonment, you do it, and it turns out well. But
Where I
when I was
am.
younger, yeah, which is good. Listen, you get yourself back into that shape where you, like, I stretch twice a day now. I don't think I've ever done that in my life, but like now
Great.
I know, I need to,
Hmm.
in order to do what I want to do, and that is be better. And if I can't possibly do that if I have to keep concentrating about, oh, my lower back hurts today, or this hurts today, or this is sore, this is sore, this is whatever. It's just another hindrance, and I know that. So why not correct it? So that's basically what got me into the stretching. Is like I knew that I had an issue that flares up if I'm not loose, and the only way to be loose is to stay loose. Um, so, but it's that I think that also goes not just body but mind. Like you shouldn't be. We were talking about changing the words right now. As you can see, I still say I'm gonna try, but then I catch myself now and I go, no, you're not, because that doesn't do anything. Um, we're going to do. And like, I like how you said, you put it into literally the affirmative. Like I already, like you said, I already did this in my head. I already did it.
Mm.
And that's huge. Like I catch myself working out sometimes, and I know I'm like, let's just say it's bench press or it's a squat. Before I even do my set, I envision myself doing that weight. And I
Mm.
think it's two things. One, I think it primes your muscles to kind of be ready for it, because it's like, oh, we're doing it, but you're not actually at the time. But also, if you vision it falls back to, if you can envision yourself doing it, then that means you can do it. Um, Obviously, again, you don't want to put on like two refrigerators on each side and thinking you're going to be able to do it when you're only squatting 25 on each side. But it's you'll get there at some point. So I guess going back to what I would tell my older self, it's just stay the course, man. You're going to be fine.
Why is that first and foremost? You're in good hands. That was a beautiful
Be-
expression. And kind of,
because because I like I said, I mean, I don't know if I get to where I am without I mean, I don't get to where I am without the other me. I mean, they got me. It's like, when you could have a car for 500,000 miles and eventually it gives out and you got to get a new car. But you know what? That first car got you 500,000 miles.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then the next car is going to take you, hopefully, the next 500,000 miles. So basically, I got to a point where my old self got me here, and I'm fine with that. I have no issues with what my old self did. I'll take it from here. I'm a different Mike than I was 2 years ago, in an extremely good way.
Mm.
And thank you for getting me here, because without you, I don't make this switch. At some point, the older me made a decision that got me here. I don't know when it was, but the older me made some decision at some point that changed my mind.
Mm.
And without that person, I don't know who I am. And, I like who I am. Therefore, I had to have liked who I was then, because it got me to where I am now.
Mm.
So stay the course. Keep whatever you did work, man. Thanks. You
Yeah.
know,
I know a lot of young men that are kind of in this. I know that I was in this position of this old version of myself, the drinking, the partying, the craziness, the unhealthy habits, I would call it the old version. And I don't I like knowing you in college, you had your fun. You had a great fucking
oh
time.
yeah,
But in
hell
terms,
yeah,
like
hell yeah.
you always went to the gym. You were very disciplined. You always, you got up, you went to class, you did what you had to do. You always ate right, even after like a day of, a night of drinking. And I commend you for your mental toughness for that. But there's a lot of young men out there that are just struggling to find that shift, to find that, like, as you said, that moment from I don't know when it happened, the old me, old Mike, to the existing Mike, or the new Mike, however you want to label it. What's your advice to them, man? Because you've come a long way in such a beautiful, positive way, based on your own
Yeah.
expression.
I think my advice would be self-reflect, look back, and then take a deep, do a little, diagnosis of yourself, do an analysis of yourself. What are the things that you like and don't like about yourself, first and foremost? If there are things that you don't like that you can change them. I mean, a lot of the stuff, like especially if we're going back to like the drinking, like don't get me wrong, I'll drink with the best of them still. But I don't do it as often as I used to, because one, we're 30 and I got to basically cancel my whole weekend just to drink on a Friday. You know, but
Yeah.
at that point, it's just you kind of have to just sit down, and even if it's like just write it out. What are my best qualities, and what bad qualities negate my best qualities? What is it that I do negatively that actually makes my good qualities overshadowed by that negativity? Like, what is overshadowing it? So if it's, you know, Mike, you're genuinely a very good guy, and then you drink and you're an asshole. Well, what's the problem? you're not an asshole. The problem is either A, you can't handle what you're drinking, or B, you drink too much and you get into the starting's huge because I don't really know. I don't really, like I said, I don't have a definitive timeline and say, or a time frame and say, this is when everything changed. It's not going to be that simple. I wish it was. I wish there was an answer to say, well, this is what you have to do to get to where you want to be. But at the end of the day, you have to start knowing who you are, knowing what your good, your bad is, because you can change a lot of your bad and you can enhance a lot of your good. And you should focus. There's a lot of things that I've read where it's you look at your strengths and your weaknesses, and sometimes a lot of people try to get better at their weakness, which is good to an extent, right? But a lot less people try to get better at their strengths. Because if you can get better at some of your strengths, they will overshadow the weaknesses you might not even need in certain things that you're doing. Like let's just say your weakness is public speaking, but you're absolutely great with numbers, or you're great with, why would you spend all your time trying to get better at public speaking, which you could do for fun to get yourself better as a well-rounded person, and then neglect the fact that you are just better at something else that you should actually be moving towards, instead of trying to fix something that you have no care for? It's not everything. There are things that need to be fixed, but not everything needs to be fixed. There are weaknesses that you're going to have that might just be a weakness, and it is what it is. Don't harp on it. Don't dwell on it. It's a weakness you might have, but you need to also remember to focus on the strengths that you have, because the strengths that you have are the things that are going to continue to move you forward. So if your strength is, like you said before, I happen to, at a younger age, I was lucky to be, or I'm blessed to have my dad, who has instilled those ideas into me when I was younger about, the mental fortitude, the eating, the getting there, the doing this. I had lost that for a little bit of time after college, where I wasn't exactly eating right. I didn't care all that much about X, Y, and Z, but I built a foundation. I knew my strength was that I'm a stubborn individual, right? And some people might see that as a weakness. I don't see that as a weakness. I'm stubborn. It can be a weakness if you're stubborn without thought, sure, but if you're stubborn with thought, that's called fixation, and that's called focus. It's two different things. Like if I'm sitting there fixated and stubborn on, this is where I know that there's only one way I want to go, and this is the way I'm going to go, and I'm stubborn. Guess how many people are detracting me from going that direction? Nobody, because I'm too stubborn, right? So your weaknesses can actually, I guess the best way to have said it was more so your weaknesses could actually be your strength. You just have to discover which one is what. And it's just, like I said, you got to do a deep dive, and it's self-reflection, a deep diagnosis about like what are things that you don't like, do like, what can be changed, what can't be changed. Control what you can control, but you can't control everything, but you should control what you can. And then just move forward with that understanding that some of my weaknesses are actually a strength, and some of my weaknesses I shouldn't even focus on, because it's just energy moved towards something that's going to ultimately be irrelevant to what you're looking to do. There are detrimental weaknesses. There are things that will continue to bog you down every single time until it's corrected, but not everything needs to be corrected.
I love that. Man. That's stubborn. I never realized how much that resonates with myself, where my friends want to go somewhere, I'm like, nah, fuck that, I'm going here. And very similar in that it's definitely a weakness for myself. If you want to it could be a weakness.
Yeah, it could be.
If you tell me I can't do something, there's a fire that starts right here, and we're going, and it's a fuck you. It's you or me. Ain't gonna be me.
It ain't gonna be me. Yeah.
I'll tell you that right now. It ain't gonna be me that goes down and stops. Yeah. Yeah, man. That's a really beautiful sentiment there, man. I love how you can take something that everyone in the world can tell you, oh, Michael, you're too stubborn, you're too stubborn, you're too stubborn. Yeah, I am.
Good. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm happy I am.
I love that
Yeah.
outlook. It's
That's going back to our intro into this. That's the beauty of finding the positives in everything.
mm,
Because
mm,
yeah, so full circle,
I
right?
love
There's
that.
always a positive to be found in everything that you do, and you have to be willing to look for it. If you're not willing to look for it, you just get weighed down by the negative, and then
Wow.
eventually you won't be able to breathe.
Wow. So the advice from Mike Kuczinski: list the pros, the cons of yourself, find the positive in it. Is that
Yeah,
the takeaway exercise here?
absolutely, and cut and trim the fat, cut ties with the things that you know are gonna overshadow your good.
Mm,
That's it. There are things that are definitively like if you're an alcoholic, I'm sorry, I don't know how many times I can sit unless it's a drinking contest. I don't think there's really many positives to it, right? Um, but so like that's something that you might want to correct. I'm not sitting there saying that every negative you have to be a let's turn it into something great. But for the most part, we're too fixated on the negatives that we don't realize that some of our negatives or our weaknesses are actually a blessing or a strength as long as you turn it the right way. And I think a lot of people just don't seem to realize how much they actually have in themselves just by doing a deep dive and seeing what you have and what you can bring forward and better yourself with.
what's your relationship to self-belief?
I think without it, then you're just lost. To be completely honest, um, I just think if you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to be able to believe more for you. Um, if someone could say, I don't remember who said it, but I remember seeing it, and it was nobody is going to ever want it more than you, right? If someone says, I want this for you, I want this more for you than you do for yourself, it's impossible. The reason is because I could only want it as much as I want it. So if I don't want it and you say you want it more, it doesn't mean anything for me
Mm,
because it's only going to matter how much I want something. So you can't possibly want it more than me if I don't want it at all, right? Um, you're not going to do it for me. You can't do it for me. So you can't possibly want it more than me. Because if that was the case, then you'd be doing this or you'd be doing that. You want me to do it, but you're that's it. That's where that relationship between us lies. You want me to do it, sure. You can't possibly want it more than me because I'm the only one that dictates how much I want something.
mm,
And I remember reading that and I said it's true. You can say all you want. I want this for you, or you should do this or you should do that. But the only person who's going to get you there is you. So if you don't believe that you can do it, there's not enough want in the world to get you where you want to go if you don't believe that you're going to do it. We were talking about before. You were saying that you were going to do the triathlon, right? And you basically believed that you were going to do it, you know, and that's what got you through it. It's not that I think I could do it or I'm going to try to do it. It's I'm going to do it. If you don't believe that you're going to do it, I can assure you one thing: you will not.
mm. That's a fact. That's a fact. What do you say to somebody who doesn't really know what they want?
Um, that's fine. It's not easy. And there's also levels to it, what do you want? I mean, how far are you willing to go for certain things is to dictate the level of want you have. Um, if if you sit there and say like, I want to be rich, but I'm not going to put in the work, well, then do you really want to be rich? Or maybe that's not the best example, but like, I want to lose weight. We were talking about, right? I want to lose weight. Well, if you don't change your eating habits, do you really want to lose weight or are you just hoping that it just falls off? Um, I think you should. There's a lot to be said about writing things down. It really is. Like if you don't know what you want, write down 20 things, just 20 things that you may want. I would say 20 things because honestly, 15 of those things are just going to be some filler that you threw in there. You don't really want, you just think you want. And then you'll read it, just keep reading that list. And 5 of those things are going to pop out to you every time you read it. And then eventually it's going to really be like 3. You're like, yeah, I want this, but like, do I want this? I don't know. But I want, like, you could sit there and like, I want this. I'm looking at it every single time I read it, and I stop and look at it. And that's a good indicator about something that you want. Is like if you come back and look at that if you go through your 20 and you keep somehow getting back to number 3, well, guess what you want? You know, that's what you want. Now the question is, do you believe in yourself enough to actually get that? Because that's the second step. The first step's very easy.
Yeah.
Finding your place in the world, we could have a conversation about, that's tough. But finding out what you want should be relatively straightforward after doing this type of exercise where you write it down a couple of times, write it down. But then that's the easier step, because the next step is the first step of the actual journey, which is getting what you want. And you can't get what you want without putting in the effort and believing that you could actually attain that.
Wow. I love that, man. What are some of
I'll
the
tell
things?
you, I'm a change man.
Yo, it's like honestly, to be very, and I don't mean to discredit the version of Mike that I see today, but I mean like you've always been very disciplined. You've always been very dialed in. And so to hear that you express yourself as such a changed man is a I don't see drastic differences in obviously this has been, whatever the time has been, but I mean, other than amazing, beautiful mindset shifts, which I wasn't aware of that existed at that point in time when we coexisted together, so to say. But yeah, man, I don't like saying that either. That's such a like, oh, you changed, or like, I'm a changed man. Fuck yeah, you're a changed man. That's amazing. It's awesome. You did all
Yeah,
that work.
absolutely.
You did all that motherfucking work
Absolutely.
to change to be the amazing person you are today. So there are two versions of like, I hate to like, oh no, man, you were
No,
always amazing, but
absolutely.
like, nah, you dialed in. You put your work in to be who you are today, and that's so
And
beautiful.
you're absolutely right. And I read something else. I hate always using other people's things, but this is where this is where you learn, right? You're not
Everything is
learning
everybody else's thing.
yeah,
Everything is
that's what
everybody
I'm
else's
saying.
things. Like
Yeah. But
to
it's
use
like,
that shit.
yeah. So they say somebody, again, I don't remember who it was. I wish I could give them credit, but they said, that people will tell you that you changed because they don't have the mind to grasp the growth that you've made.
Mm.
So in other words, it's like, you've changed. No, I may not be the same person I was, but like you said, it doesn't mean that it's bad. They'll put a negative connotation behind it. Oh, you changed. You're not, Mike from 3 years ago. Good, because I didn't like that Mike. And thank you,
Yeah.
because if you notice the change, that means that I'm validated for what I feel internally. So
It's always the
yeah.
people that aren't changing, that are staying in that stagnant, stuck version of themselves, that are pointing the finger and saying, you changed and
Mm-hmm.
you've deceived. And like I kind of get this feeling, kind of, you alluded to it of earlier, of like, oh, well, I don't want to talk bad about people that aren't willing to change, that aren't willing to embrace the 1% of the growth oriented lifestyle. and there's this like uncomfortability that I'm currently experiencing. You experienced it when you expressed it before. Why should we have to feel uncomfortable about somebody? I guess it's okay to not embrace this lifestyle, if you will, the 1% lifestyle. But it's almost like we don't want to offend anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I guess there's a part of me that doesn't want to offend the people that I know and love in my life that are, let's call it content, because I love them for who they are, and they're amazing the way they are. It's, I think that, somebody told me once you put the glasses on, you can't take them off. You can pretend you don't see, but once you put the
Mhm.
glasses on, that you can see that you can actually get 1% or better every day. You see that where you're lacking, what you're doing, you're fucking up constantly. You can't take them off again. As much as you want to, you can't.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's been one of the most difficult things in my personal journey of like, well, I like having fun and I like getting fucked up from time to time. And I don't think there's anything drastically wrong with that, as long as I'm still taking care of myself
Mhm.
and finding that balance of, is this serving me? And if it's not, how do and how do I remove it from my life? Have you had a similar thought process, if you will?
Well, going back to when we were talking about like whether it be offending or whatever it may be, it's not so much that I'm worried about offending somebody because, to be completely honest, people are way too sensitive now anyway. So you're going to offend people, and honestly, you're not thinking in depth enough if you are not willing to risk offending somebody. Because if you are sitting there we were talking about surface level stuff, right? If you're only going to identify with what's considered normal or appropriate or whatever it may be, obviously to an extent, then you're giving up your biggest power, and that's the power to question. That's the power to learn, the power to like see something in a different perspective than most people will. So I have no fear of offending anybody. What I do, what I don't like doing anymore, or I will not do anymore, is I won't belittle somebody
Mm.
for their choices because it's two things. One, there's no construction in that. That doesn't help anybody in any direction. If I just say you're a piece of shit for doing this, what's that going to change? All it's going to do is now they're going to do it and be depressed about it. It's also bringing negative energy into my life that I am not trying to have in my life.
Mm.
I would rather say to them, you know, I had a buddy of mine. So let's bring a story into this. I had a buddy of mine. We were golfing, and we were because you brought up a good point when you said I love them for who they are, which is true. But I think what when you truly love somebody, you don't just love them for who they are, because what you want to do is push them to what you think they can be or the potential that they have inside them. So I had a buddy of mine, we went golfing, and he said something to me that I will literally never forget. He said, "Mike," and this is his words, not mine, so this is not an arrogant way to have said this, but he said, "Mike, you were arguably the smartest person I've ever met. You should be doing more with your mind," basically, is what he said.
Mm.
And there is no reason for him to say that to me, right? There's absolutely no reason. We were having a great time. And he's crying to me about it. And that's when I sat there and I said, you know what? He loves me for me. I know that definitely. He made that clear. But he loves me for what I can be as well. And that's where I think there's a differentiation between, if you truly love somebody, then you don't just love them for who they are. You should love them for what they can be, and actually be kind of upset when they're not moving themselves in that direction. So I won't belittle somebody because they're not doing it. I think the other way to do it is to kind of try to instill a fire in them. And the same way that my friend had done it, right? How he had mentioned, he's like, I see better in you. It's time you see better in you, and you're not going to be able to do that by shitting on the person. And I also know from a younger age, I actually gained my personality from being made fun of when I was younger, and it sucks, right? Being told you have this, you have that, or whatever, judging you by your looks, whatever it may be. And it took me a while to kind of process that it's you're just an uglier person. Like self, I'm an uglier person for doing that. There's no reason to do it. It almost seems like you need to try to validate yourself by putting others down. And to me, I don't see that as, you know, I should, again, we go back to, what self-belief and self-love. Like, if you truly like yourself, whatever they do should not matter. If you want to protect them from something, sure. If you don't want to see them going down a bad path, absolutely intervene. But if you're going to sit there and belittle somebody just because you might get a little kick out of it, you're just not a good person, in my opinion. And I've learned that over the course of the thing, because it's literally, so I was at church, and they wanted us to write to these new kids who were receiving communion. And it was, basically words of wisdom, whatever it may be. And I just wrote to them, it takes more effort to be, well, I didn't write it like this because the kid was 8, but it takes more effort to be an asshole than it does to be nice, right? It literally takes more effort for you to come up with something to derogatory, break them down, and like maliciously try to say something that's going to, hurt their feelings. It takes effort. And you feel that because most people don't feel good after, which means you have used energy that has brought you down by doing that. So it takes more effort to be an asshole than it does to just say a nice thing about somebody. Like people will make, I always go back to the gym because it's like, it's kind of my outlet, but you'll see people at the gym who, have clearly no idea what they're doing, or they're overweight or whatever it is. And someone will make a mark like, oh, look at this fat fuck at the gym. It's like, they're at the gym. What was your first step? Anybody's first step. How are they going to lose the weight if every time they come here, like, look at this fat fuck? You know what I mean? Like, they're here. You know what I mean? They're bettering themselves, and we're sitting here shitting on the person. It makes no sense.
They're attempting to fix the problem you're judging them on.
You're judging them on.
Literally the evidence of progress.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're doing what you would tell them to do had you not seen them at the gym. You would say, why don't you go to the gym, fat ass? Right?
No, you're right. You're right.
I mean, I wouldn't, but people would.
A younger me would. And
a younger me
would too.
Yeah, absolutely. But now, like, I don't know if it's maturity or whatever it is, but I just look back and I go, it's just like it's so not worth it. Like, it doesn't do anything for you. It does nothing for you in a positive fashion. Not a single thing. You don't benefit an ounce. You don't benefit an ounce.
I think as a kid, though, it's different. I think as a child, when you can be the class clown, when you can get somebody good with a zinger, it's motivated in a negative way because you get attention, you get that notoriety, if you will. But
it's a little dopamine hit.
Yeah. Oh, certainly. It's pleasure. It's not peace. It's pleasure, and it's that short-term pleasure, and it's that dopamine hit. That's all it is. It comes and it goes away. And the sad part is that the person that you're making fun of, you're getting this much hit, they're taking this much, and they'll never forget it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. You
how
just
you learn.
nailed that spot on. Absolutely spot on. Nailed it. I was thinking the same exact thing. It's like that'll last with them forever. Congratulations on your 5 second high, you know? And I to this day, I to this day think about some of the things that I had done as a kid. And again, like you said, you're a kid. And I just go, man, like, what were you thinking? I feel bad now because it's just something that it's not me. Like, it's not the type of person that I am. It's never been. It was just then
Mm.
at the time. But like, I just look back at it and I'm like, damn, like, what the hell were you doing? I want to call them up and hug them. Like, I just feel
No,
bad,
that's it though. I mean, I remember being in rooms I'd be in different rooms. So I've been very blessed to be having different cliques and different friends from different states and all kinds of stuff. And you get in a room and it's like or even a job and it's like a construction site, these people breaking balls. And this one's breaking that one, this one's breaking that. And if me or you walked in that room, we can hold our own because of this old insecure, I know myself, insecure version of myself, and it's got the defense up. Like, oh, if this guy says this, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna say that, and da 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 da. I'm ready to go on the attack because I have to be so defensive because I feel so insecure. And I only say you because I know you can break balls with the best of them. I ain't roping you with the insecurity. It's more of just a like I know that we had a good time breaking balls in college.
Yeah.
It's
No, but you're spot on.
a lot of
You're
that
spot
was
on.
just rooted in insecurity for myself. And it was, as you said, you hit it on the mark. If I break other people down, I don't level up, but they don't level up around me. Now it levels the playing field.
Yeah.
It's
And
sad.
it's just, I mean, I don't know. I've been trying to like we were talking about mental shift. I've been trying to focus my what am I gonna do? What decision if I'm faced between two decisions and one's either gonna bring me down or keep me where I am, or the other one's gonna bring me forward, why would I pick the other one? Why would I pick the one that brings me down and keeps me where I am when the other alternative is getting forward?
Hmm.
I've been starting to kind of, especially with like dating and stuff like that. Between like, I actually went back and I had ghosted somebody, and I felt terrible about it because I don't do that, and I've had it happen to me before. And I think this again comes with the growth mindset of just actually caring. you know, Weird concept, but
Having a heart.
yeah. Um, but I went back and apologized about it, and I felt better. I know they felt better. But I just started thinking to myself, I'm like, I again, back to the I word, intent. Everything I do needs to have an intent and a purpose behind it. And if I'm going to do something like that, and if it's a negative action, then I better sure as hell have a great purpose behind my negativity, because that negativity is going to linger for almost ever on somebody. Like you said, you make the wrong comment to the wrong person on the wrong day, it can be the difference between them seeing another day. And you know what I mean? And I've like I've shifted. I've never really been like that to begin with, but I know there have people who are like that. And I've shifted my mindset to the extent that I've always been a very positive, bubbly person to begin with, like, when it comes to stuff like that. But my sisters and my family will kind of be like, Mike, you'll talk to anybody at any time. And I said, you know what? I do. First off, you never know who you're going to meet by having a conversation and being nice to somebody. But two, you never know whose life you're going to change forever that day.
Hmm.
If you Somebody could be having the worst day possible and think that there's no way it could get worse, and you could either make it worse, and that being the tipping point, or you can make them smile for the first time that day in a 13-hour day, and they smiled once, and you were the reason they smiled, and then you're the reason they continued going on the next day.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the way I've shifted all of that, and I try to tell my niece the same thing. It's just You don't like it done to you, why do it to somebody else? It's as simple as that. It's that golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated. But like you've experienced the worst of things. Why? What gives you the right to put somebody else through that? You don't have it. You don't have a right to do that, especially if you've already experienced it firsthand.
It's
And not my eyes.
true. It's so true. And on that related note, Mike Kuczinski, when it's all said and done, your time has come. How do you want to be remembered? What do you want the attendees of your wake to say about you?
I would like them to say, it's not that I would like them, I know what they will say. Um, they'll say that Mike was just genuinely a very good guy. He was a great guy, always made me laugh, always made me smile, and always went out of his way to help somebody. And I know that's exactly what would be said at my funeral. And I can die happy knowing that.
I love the assurance there.
Yeah, absolutely. There's not a second thought in my mind what anything else would be said but that.
And that wasn't a mindset shift. That was an energetic, like, just, I don't even like assurance. Like, this is it.
No, it was. No, it absolutely
That
is.
was
And
amazing, by the way.
yeah. You talk about believing in yourself. It's something that I wholeheartedly believe in every single day. It's just there's not a day that goes by that I don't think that I am just a good person, and I'm all right with that. You know, I can sleep at night knowing that I am a good guy. You know,
That is
yeah.
I can attest to that. You certainly are a good guy, and feel very blessed to have you as a presence in my life, Mike. I love your videos, man. They're awesome. They're awesome.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah,
And I love the
yours too. Yours too.
oh, my shit's crazy. It's out of
Yeah, well, no, but in a good way though. What do you mean?
I appreciate it, man.
It's always good to have a little crazy, man.
Yeah, I gotta keep that crazy. You gotta keep the scales balanced into the crazy realm here.
Yeah, for sure. It's a differentiation, right? It's something that you may have that others don't, and that's if it's crazy, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's unique,
It's
man.
good.
I'm
Yeah,
blessed.
absolutely.
Very, very lucky. And dude, I want to thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for your insight, man. Dude, 4 sets of 4 comedy clubs.
Yeah, minimum.
Man, that's the floor, baby.
Yeah.
Dude, I love that.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it. It's really fun. I love these things, man. You know what it is? We were talking about, writing stuff down, and what this is good too, to just like everyone. If anybody takes anything out of what I have to say today, it's don't be afraid to talk to people. Just
Mm,
don't be afraid to like. You might not have somebody, but you can find somebody that you could talk to. Especially as men. Oh, I had mentioned it before. Like suicide prevention is one of the biggest things to me. I work with a lot of nonprofits. I work with do Out of the Darkness Walk in Philly, and there's a very bad stigma around mental health, and talking things out alleviates a lot. Um, and if you can find anybody to talk to, do it. Don't be afraid to express your emotions, because at the end of the day, I think the most masculine thing you can do as a man is to be in tune with your emotions and actually be able to express them.
mm.
So, like I said, if you take anything away from this, definitely you want to make sure that you talk. Don't keep anything bottled in.
I appreciate that, man. That's a very, courageous truth to share. It was interesting. I found myself the other night. I was feeling this anxiety and I didn't know where it was coming from. I was trying to understand why, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and I didn't want to bring it up. I didn't want to be a burden to them. Like, I felt that I was like, oh man, they don't want to hear about my shit. Like, they have enough shit going on. They don't want to hear about my shit. And it was scary to bring it up because being vulnerable. This is a friend of mine that's a female, and I'm like, you know what, like, I don't want to show weakness right now. And whether it's a male or female, I wouldn't want to show weakness because of the tough guy that I'm
No, yeah, no,
grew
yeah.
up to be, and no crying,
The
no,
stigma. Yep.
yeah, the societal norms of just suck it up, and you're a boy, you're not allowed to cry when you scrape your knee. You got to keep it together and keep your emotions quiet and shut up and keep going. And I was blessed to be courageous enough to share, and it helped to talk it out. It helped to express that, understand where I was going through. Maybe I got to the bottom, maybe I didn't, but just to talk about it, to hear from another person's perspective that it's normal, that it's okay to be going through that and feeling that way right now. And then the next night came, and I'm talking to this individual again, and the energy shifted, and I can tell that they're in a bad mood. Like they got some shit on their back. And I'm like, yo, what's going on? Like, what's up? I want to help you. I want to, whatever I can do to help you alleviate what's going on, I'm here for you. So
Mhm.
I kind of had this dichotomy of, I didn't want to burden anybody with this, but literally 24 hours, I was like, burden me. I want to help you. I want to be able to help you. So I think now being in both of those in a 24-hour whatever time cycle here of, well, yeah, I think I'm going to start burdening people with more of my shit so that I'm not burdened with it. And I'm always open and welcome to help anybody that wants to unburden their weight onto me.
Mhm.
So that's just something that I experienced recently. It was really unbelievable in that way. It's like, wow, I do want to help, and I don't want to ask for help, but I do want to help. But now I'm like, oh no, like I want to be able to provide that vulnerability and courage so somebody else can feel that I want to help them feeling. That's where I'll wrap up my TED talk there.
But you're absolutely right. You nailed it on the head with perspective, right? At the end of the day, you only know your perspective. That's all you know. So you're sitting there like, this is the way it is. This is what I'm going through. But at the end of the day, somebody else has gone through it, and they could either help hold your hand and get you through it, or give you advice on how to get through it.
Mm,
And perspective will shift when you see from another, like you said, just the realization that it's normal will shift your perspective. Because in your head, you're like, why is this happening to me? It's only me. It's only me. It's not only you. It's not only you. It happens to everybody every day. Literally every day, somebody's going through something that you have either gone through or are currently going through or will go through.
yeah.
So having that conversation and just gaining the perspective of somebody else is huge, because that's what life's all about at the end of the day, is perspective. So I'm happy for you. I'm glad you did that. I'm glad you had the courage to actually break down your walls and have a conversation with somebody. And I just want to let you know that if you ever feel like you have a weight that you need to unload, give me a call, man. Like, I have absolutely no issue with having a 4 hour conversation with you about it if it's going to help you get better. Just, get through it, whatever it may be. I will enjoy it. So don't think it's letting off a burden on me. It's just having a conversation with a buddy.
No, I really I appreciate that dearly, and vice versa, man. Just happy to, as I said, happy to help that person, be ecstatic to help you, and whatever, however we can all serve each other in a positive way to help each other. I think that's so important as men, supporting other men that are, you don't, it takes courage to be vulnerable. And I don't think enough men to realize that.
Yeah.
This alpha male Andrew Tate bullshit, oh, never be vulnerable, never show anybody your weaknesses. It's just bullshit, because you can't be that. You can't exist in that manner. You just can't. You're
You
not
can't you
made
you
to.
can't possibly be living in the present if you are saddled by your thoughts on what, most of the things that you're going through have to do with either the future or the past. Very little of it has to do with what's going on. So if you could center yourself around what's going on that day, I'm depressed. Everyone gets depressed, right? Everybody has those moments. You don't even know what it is. You just wake up, you're like, what the hell's going on? Why am I depressed? And you start thinking about 10 years down the road, or what's this going to be like 5 years, and you just start compounding that thing. You don't get to live in the actual now because you're too busy concerned about what could happen or what will happen, instead of just saying, all right, today's today. It's going to pass. I'm going to go talk to somebody about it. And tomorrow I might still feel this way. 3 days from now, I probably won't. But it will linger longer if you don't let it out.
Mm.
See, and I just want to speak to anyone who might not have somebody. Write it down. Write it in a book. Just say, you know, da 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 da. This is what I'm going through. I need somebody to hear it, even if it's me.
Yeah, you may not believe you have anybody, but
Yeah,
that's certainly not true. If there's anybody that's listening to this, give your boy a fucking call.
yeah,
I'm here for you, 1,000,000%. If you're long enough to support this and here, I'll help you out, whatever I can do. So but
absolutely.
I love that advice though, writing it down. That's a lot of what I did when I didn't feel when I wasn't strong enough to go to anybody with my problems. When I wasn't courageous enough to be vulnerable and go to a therapist because of the stigma around men in therapy. That I have about 6 or 7 of these journals that I just wrote every day in. And like I'm blessed to be able to go back and like, yo, this is my stories. This is every day
Yeah, yeah.
of like you talk about Navy SEAL training. This is Hell Week in books. Like I can read this shit now. And like I was telling my boy, I'm like, dude, you're in the bunker right now. There's a friend of mine who was getting fired during COVID. He didn't want to get the shot. Da 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 da. I'm like, dude, you got a journal, man. Your head's not in the right spot. But like, fuck for the therapy. Do it so you can look back on your mindset, where you were at when you were at war, when you're in that bunker. What were you thinking? 5 years from now, you're gonna look back and say, "Look where I came from, and look, holy shit, this is wild to have this information." If just
Or
that,
again, for perspective, you sit back, you look at it and go, I really thought this was the end of the world.
yeah,
you know, like,
exactly,
and then it just turns
exactly.
out it was just a bad week, bad month, bad string of days. But
Yeah.
it doesn't, you know, a week. You were talking about Florida's weather, right? You got 300 days are good, 65 might be too hot, right? Well, 65 days doesn't define Florida, right? So
Right.
a week of bad days doesn't define who you are.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's not going to change who you are, because the rest, the other 300, let's see if I can do quick math here. uh,
Financial advice math.
yeah. So let's just say you have a week of, a bad week, the 358 days, you could fact check that. That's accurate. The 358 days going forward are good for the most part, right? So that means, on a scale, it's an insignificant week, although it feels like the end of the world for that week.
Mm. No, it's beautiful to put it in that perspective. I love that. Um, well, before we sign off, Mike, how can my millions of followers support you? What can we do? Tax season just passed, but what can we do to support you? Where your comedy show is going to be? What is it that, how can we help the Mike Kuczinski?
Um, so honestly, the best way to help me is to take what I'm saying and actually utilize it, use it, be better,
Mm,
strive for better. Don't sit there and um, limit yourself, because limits are only what's in your mind. Um, as far as monetarily,
My Venmo is.
no, no, just if you guys need any financial advice, tax advice, real estate advice, anything of that type of advice outside of just wanting to talk, just reach out. I'm glad to help. I'm pretty good at giving away free information, so anything I could do to help for sure. And as the comedy shows go, it's probably going to be all in the city. So I mean, maybe I'll smack one or two in Jersey, but it'll probably all be in the city.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Are they going to be?
Yeah.
Are you going to announce them or?
Probably some form of, just to get people there. So I'll probably put up a couple of stories like a week or two in advance and just try to get people there. But I'll text people that I know are going to be around, and then just we'll go from there. But yeah, that's probably going to be the way I go about it.
Okay.
Well, I actually have a 9:30 meeting with my book to write jokes. So every night, I make sure I do at least a minimum of 10 minutes of joke writing. So
I love that.
I have it in my calendar too. It's one of those things that I've learned, just as a see you later for everybody. Put it in your calendar, write it down, say, I'm going to do this at this time. So at least you have a deadline for it. You hold yourself accountable for it. And if you go 2 or 3 days without doing it, take it off your calendar. You don't want to know.
It's not that important.
Yeah, it's not that important to you, and that's fine. Don't sweat it. It just wasn't. That's it. Find something that is.
That is so beautiful, man. I can't thank you enough for your time. Again, beautiful, beautiful, man. So inspiring, so insightful. Mike Kuczinski, ladies and gentlemen.
This was fun, man. I appreciate it. If you ever
awesome, bro.
If you ever want to do it again, let me know for sure.
Yeah, I would love to reconvene after we do these the 4 sets.
Yeah, we'll see what happens a year from now. Like, hey, how'd everything go? Wow, I'm better.
Awesome. Well, you'll definitely tag me in those sets. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would love to share and support, and get if I'm in the city, I'll be there, bro.
Hey now. All right, I'll try to plan it according to that for sure.
That's it. All right, man. Well, thank you so much again, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, and it's great catching up, man.
Yeah. All right. I'll talk to you soon, Mike. Be good.
Catch you later. Yep, you too.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the My Tribe podcast. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that like button down below. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss another episode that's dropping. And do me a favor, comment below what your favorite takeaway was from this episode. And if you know anybody that could benefit from this show, that you thought about, oh man, this would resonate with them, please share with them. Share with them for your sake, for their sake, for everybody's sake. Thank you, thank you, thank you.